It's not information overload, it's filter failure. This is a quote from Clay Shirky, who's a professor who focuses on the economic and social effects of information in the internet age. Trouble is, in the world we live in now, there is so much information out there that it can be almost overwhelming. And it's a problem for us because we evolved in relatively small social groups where the quality and the value of information was sacred. And if you were giving the wrong information to a relatively small group of people, it would affect your social status and potentially be dangerous to the group. Now, the result of this huge amount of information is that we have a real problem nowadays with discerning quality information with poor information, real news from fake news, that kind of thing. And like I said, the number of connections we have can lead, unless we apply the right filters, to information overload. Now, how does this relate to my industry, the health and fitness industry? Without doubt, the health and fitness industry is a force for good. There are lots of great people making positive changes and lasting changes in people's lives. The trouble is, with the health and fitness industry, is that the bar for entry is quite low. And a lot of the people, based on my experience, aren't particularly intelligent. They're not particularly interested in the health aspect of health and fitness. They approach it from more of a fitness aspect, but even more from an aesthetic perspective. Now, the trouble with this aesthetic perspective, if you combine that with low intelligence and sometimes low self-esteem, it leads to an approach which will leave no stone unturned in terms of achieving a certain look. Now, everyone likes a good, solid physique, plenty of muscle, low fat percentage. But the trouble is, because the way they get to these levels is often hyper normal of what is expected from the average person. And they set a bar that is up here, where in reality the bar for most people should be set around this point. But because they get up to this point, they automatically get a lot of attention, and the quieter voice in the room, the more sensible voice in the room, is often blasted out because of the loudest voice in the room or the biggest muscles in the room. So how do we apply filters to the health and fitness industry? And in particular, the health and fitness industry influences that a lot of us will see on social media. Because I can tell you this, most of the stuff I see is utter nonsense. But because I've been selective with the filters I use from where I get my information flow now is a lot more sensible because of the people I choose to follow or the people I choose to view. So these are three things that you can do to improve the quality of the flow of your information when it comes to health and fitness. First thing you can do is, it's really quite simple, is basically have a look at the person who's talking and have a look at their fat percentage. And I mean this from two different ends of the spectrum. If the person giving advice is obese, now, in this day and age, shock horror, oh my God, you're saying something bad about fat people. This is the health and fitness industry. This means that you need to be healthy and you need to be fit and you need to look after yourself. If the person giving advice is obese, then there's something wrong. They're not sticking to the rules that they should be sticking to, and they're probably not following the rules that they give to their clients. This, to me, these things don't go together. This is like trying to push a battery at two positive ends together. They'll repel each other. It doesn't make any sense to me. You have to have lived the right path or have come from a place where you got onto the path for a long time and to have done it consistently. Because the last thing I want to do is listen to someone who's obese telling me, well, you need to start looking after your calories. It's like, you do it first. Do it for 6 months to a year, come back, and then tell me your experience, how you did it, because otherwise I don't believe a word that's coming out of your mouth. Now, the other side of the spectrum is if you get someone who's absolutely jacked, bulging muscles, but they have about 5% body fat, there's a strong possibility they are taking performance-enhancing drugs or a cocktail of performance-enhancing drugs. Let's not forget the power of steroids. steroids will take a normal person and effectively turn them into a superhuman in months. That's how powerful they are. Now, if you take someone who's been in the industry for a year, who went from this skinny little guy, all of a sudden he's absolutely jacked. He's giving you advice that might be valid, it might not be valid, but he's coming from it from a perspective that it's not a lived experience without doing it naturally. And you'll find that if you do things naturally, it's much, much harder, and the margins for error are much harder. If you take steroids, then you just have to lift weights. Doesn't matter how well you lift them, really doesn't matter how often you lift them, you will get massive. So look at fat percentages. Overweight, jacked 5%, something's off. Second thing you can do is you can look at the industry and see if the person you're looking at is respected by their peers. When it comes to social media, it can be pretty difficult. But if you go into the comment section, if you bypass all the blind hatred you're going to get that most people will get, then you will read between the lines about whether, this guy says this guy says this, oh, actually, this is incorrect if you check out this. There's often intelligent people out there who will read comments and say, because it's within their conscience to not let things slide. If someone comes out and says, well, you should do this because of this, and it's incorrect scientifically, someone will feel obliged to say, actually, bro, this is incorrect. You shouldn't be advising this, blah, 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 blah. If on that comment section, you don't see a lot of that kind of stuff, or you see a lot of love for the person, or you say, well, this is great advice, and especially if you see it from their peers, then you have a good chance that the person you're looking at is legit. So look at the peers, look at the social groups the person is involved in. If they're regular speakers in important events in the health and fitness industry, this would be a good go-to and a telltale sign of quality information. Another thing you can do is look at the content on the social media. What kind of things are they producing? If they're doing things that is so far removed from what everyone else is doing, it's either they are in on some kind of secret that no one else knows, which is highly unlikely, or it's nonsense to grab attention. There are lots of coaches out there that have this kind of approach. Even worse, there are some coaches out there who film exercises that they know are garbage, and they use them as an attention-grabbing, clickbaity thumbnail, even though that exercise doesn't really form part of their main catalogue of exercises. So simply look at the stuff. If the stuff makes sense, is solid, is done with good technique, doesn't seem too flamboyant, and is based in good science, then it's legit. But if it's too good to be true, then it probably is.